The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for another one of our Ask the Experts webinar series. My name is Richard Kaur, and I'm with WorkSource Atlanta Regional. Today, our topic will focus on veterans. Today, it's all about veterans and the power of having them in the workforce. We have two experts on the line who will be sharing useful information for veterans who might be looking to get back to work. We'll be talking about resources for disabled veterans. We'll be talking about resources for homeless veterans, transitional work, transitional residents. And also, if you're a business and you're interested in employing or supporting veterans, we're going to give you some information on how best to do so. But before I introduce my panelists, I'd like to take care of some housekeeping. First of all, this is a live webinar, and we'd love to hear from you. We really would. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box at any time. Right now, we've muted your microphones, but we've allotted some time at the end of the presentation to answer those questions. We encourage you to ask questions, and we'll get to them during the final segment. Also, we wanted to let you know that while our career resource centers might be closed to foot traffic, we're still open to virtual traffic. So what does that mean? Well, it means that if you're a job seeker and you ever need any assistance related to employment or training, if you ever need some career advice, or maybe you just need someone to help you to update your resume or someone to review your resume, please feel free to contact us. We recognize that finding the right job and the right career can be difficult. And we understand that, especially in these times, finding the money to pay for training and certification to start that perfect career might be difficult. It might be a daunting task. But listen, there might be some grants that you are eligible for. So don't worry, because we're here to help you. Also, if you're a business and you're looking to recruit a qualified workforce, we're here to help you too. WorkSource may be able to provide funds and support to make it easier to find and train workers to meet your business goals. And guess what? The most amazing part of this all is that it's all free. We're a federally funded program, so the services are absolutely free. This is your tax dollars at work. So the best way to contact us is by visiting our website at www.atlworks.org. Let me say that again. It's www.atlworks.org. Fill out the contact information sheet, and someone will be in touch with you shortly thereafter. And also, if you're a veteran, you may be eligible for some preferential treatment. So listen, there's absolutely no reason not to contact us if you're looking for some assistance.
All right, so we have two experts on the line with us today. We have Tracy Roberts and James Moseley. Tracy has served as a community employment coordinator for the VA in Atlanta, and she assists local employers and recruiters with hiring and retaining veterans. Among other things, Tracy helps with the coordinating efforts between VA and non-VA employment programs. James is with the Georgia Department of Labor. He is the Disabled Veterans Outreach Program Specialist. Wow, James, that's a mouthful. It's DVOP for short. And he works at the Cobb Cherokee Center, the DOL at the Cobb Cherokee Center. And James provides services to meet the employment needs of disabled veterans and other eligible persons. I've personally worked with both of our experts in professional capacity, and I can say that they're very knowledgeable and very good at what they do. One thing that they both, Tracy and James, both have in common is that they're really passionate about helping veterans. So I'm thrilled. I'm really happy to have you two with here today to share your knowledge and your expertise. So without further ado, we'll have James take it over from here. James, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me, Richard?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So my name is James Moseley, and as Richard said before, I'm a DVOP. That's a Disabled Veteran Outreach Program Specialist. And basically what that means is I provide services for special needs veterans in my area. My area includes Cobb County, Cherokee County, and also now Paulding County. And some of the work that I do is, the large part of it is outreach, going out into the community and finding veterans that are special in some of the special need categories that I work with. Now, what are some of those special need categories? That can include special disabled rating from the Veterans Administration. That can include populations of veterans that are homeless, that are looking for housing resources. In a nutshell, I like to call it mainly a resource advocate with all things that relate to employment. We also provide intensive services for our eligible persons. We work with spouses, and in some cases, when you have a veteran who, let's say their caregivers are having issues trying to find services or resources for their veteran, they can come into the Career Center, and I can also help them with that. We work with economically and educationally disadvantaged veterans that might have issues of PTSD or things like that going on. Now, I don't diagnose any of these things, but I highly recommend for these veterans to get help with some of the resources they might not know about, that are possibly maybe like at Fort McPherson or at the main VA hospital downtown, and try to understand what their problems to employment might be. I'm actively involved in outreach and participating in events like this so I can find these veterans and help get them to a better place with employment. Some of the things that I cover as it relates to employment would be, go ahead, next slide. Next slide, Richard. Oh, other direction. Some of the things that I cover as it relates to helping people with employment could be just about any and all aspects that relate to finding employment. So the first question you might have is, well, how do I find somebody like you? How do I find a DVOP? And I work I have a counterpart I work with. He's called the Lever, and that's going to be a local veteran employment representative. So we are a two-part team. I work with the veteran to help them bring down their barriers to employment. What's a barrier? A barrier to employment can be anything that is preventing a veteran from entering the workforce or being able to focus on that job, such as, let's say the veteran lives in Cherokee County, okay? Cherokee County right now doesn't have a great public transportation system. So if a veteran does not have a vehicle, that becomes a barrier to them for getting to employment. They're not going to be able to get to work because there's no public transportation. They don't have a vehicle. They don't have a bicycle. So my job is to try to identify these problems in employment and help them overcome. And the solution to that would be as simple as, okay, are you going to go to find work in your geographic area to where you can walk? Are you going to try to purchase a bicycle or an automobile, or are you going to move? And I try to have these tough conversations with veterans right as soon as I can identify them with their employment problems, so they can make it to the next step in employment and be successful and get to a career. The majority of what I do is try to help veterans find excellent, sustainable careers, not just jobs. This is a little hard for me. I don't randomly just talk without interaction from my crowd. It's kind of hard to get a visual, but let's get on to this slide. How do you find us? No, go back one. How do you find us? You can find DVOPs and leavers at your local career centers. Now, in the state of Georgia, I believe we have 159 counties. Each county does not get its own DVOP and leaver. So I have 3. Some of my counterparts, they end up with 7 counties because they're small. But you can go to this website on Stars and Stripes and find a veteran job center. And can you go to the next slide, sir? And you can just type in the information under my dashboard, search for vet reps. Sometimes that's what they call us, is veteran reps. And you can type in your city, you can type in your state, and then a radius of how far, and you're going to be able to pull up local vet reps in your area. And for anybody in the state of Georgia, or if anybody in this class is outside of the state of Georgia, you can pretty much go to any career center and ask for the veterans unit, and they're going to be able to put you in contact with one of us, and then we can sit down and see if you're qualified for our program and try to help get you to a better place with employment. One of the common questions I get asked a lot from a lot of veterans who recently get out of the military is, hey, I did my time in the military. Now I want a federal job. Can you help me write my federal, can you help me with my federal resume? And a lot of times the knowledge and information that's needed to help someone with a federal resume is very vast, is a huge difference from federal employment to a civilian employment. So the very first thing I ask the veteran is, have you ever taken a federal resume writing class? And they're out there, they're a little harder to find than a regular resume writing class. But once the veteran starts taking these classes, it becomes a little easier for them to understand the federal hiring process. And that's just the one that's on most veterans' minds when they come in contact with me. Can we go to the next slide, Richard? How do you find a career center with the people that I work with? You can go to the dol.georgia.gov website, and under this little address bar for locations and career centers, you can put the information in. Now, I can't scroll down, but when you get to this page on our website, you'll get the entire list based off of location name, and then all the different areas that are served in that particular county and or city. And once you get in contact, you can drop an email. Hey, it's a lot harder. A lot of our offices are closed right now because of what's going on across the country. But you can just email your career center, let them know I'm a veteran, I'm in need of assistance, I need to talk to someone from the vet unit, and eventually those emails are going to make it to the appropriate DVOP or leaver, and then we can help provide you services. Okay. With that being said, some of the other things that I help people do as it relates to employment, I help veterans with communication, how to communicate with an employer during the interview process, how to keep your job, how to find jobs. We use our website called Employ Georgia. That's the state employment website. It's like the state of Georgia's Department of Labor's version of Indeed or Monsters.com. Okay, it's what we use. And There's other websites out there to help people with the internet job search that they're not used to. It's not just posting your job on a particular website and waiting for an employer to call you back. You know, you have to be a little bit more careful these days, because just as much as there's websites that help you, some hurt you. Now, you know, people are going on these websites, they're pulling off your resumes, and they're calling you up, and it's not actual job offers. It's scammers who are trying to steal your information. So you want to be careful about that. Since this is a public forum, I'm not going to badmouth any organizations, but just be wary of the free ones where you can just post a job and anybody calls you up. I also work on strategies on how to navigate and use LinkedIn. That's another good website people are using to help find them employment. It's considered the professional business website. And do we have any other slides, Richard? If you have any questions for me, I don't want to eat up all their time today, but you can find me at this email address. Here's my number to my line. You can always drop me a line and send me an email. And if anybody has any questions, you can let me know at this time. Or I guess we're keeping questions to the end, right, Richard?
Yes, we're gonna have Tracy come online and talk to us for a bit, and
thank you.
allotted some time at the end of the presentation for questions. But if you're in the audience and you have a question, just type that question in the chat box, and I will shoot those questions to the presenters, and they'll answer it at the end of the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, James. And
no problem.
Next, we're gonna have, 1 second. We're gonna have Tracy come on board. And Tracy, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Loud and clear. Thank you, Tracy.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that wonderful information, Mr. Moseley. And Mr. Core, thank you so much for inviting me. It's my deep privilege and gladness to be able to share this information. I always want to get the news out about how the VA helps job-seeking veterans as well as employers with hiring those job-seeking veterans. So my title with the VA is Community Employment Coordinator. I'm assigned to the Atlanta VA Hospital, and I'm one of about 150 community employment coordinators all around the country. I believe almost every major VA hospital has at least one of me assigned to them, sometimes two. Next slide, please.
We're having a little bit of difficulty for some reason. Okay, here we go.
Okay, a little bit of overview of exactly what who and what I'll be presenting to. And so I appreciate everyone who has called in today to listen to this presentation. And I hope what you're going to take away, if you're a veteran, is a job-seeking veteran, how you can actually get help from the VA with your job search. And if you're an employer, I can help you with recruiting veterans. And also, if you're neither of those, I hope you'll get the information that you might need to share with others in your circle of family and friends and colleagues. Next slide, please. So again, I am with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, assigned to the North Georgia area through the Atlanta VA Hospital. And there's our mission statement as we were mandated by President Lincoln over almost 200 years ago now. Next slide, please. So again, just to reiterate, I'm here to help job-seeking veterans as well as potential employers. And I'm going to cover in detail what we can do for those job-seeking veterans and also what I can do to help serve employers who want to hire them. Next slide, please. So we help veterans with their job search through a program called Vocational Rehabilitation at the hospital. And vocational rehabilitation is a field. It's kind of like career coaching or counseling or life coaching around employment concerns and support. But usually it's generally applied when there might be a disability or a barrier involved. So not just your typical career coach, but one who also might be able to help remove, alleviate, and overcome barriers. And Voc Rehab is available in many different ways. It's available to veterans through the VA, and also those same veterans as well as civilians through the state of Georgia, through local agencies like the ones Mr. Moseley and Mr. Core represent, through community-based organizations. Those are nonprofits whose mission is to help people with their job search. Vocational rehabilitation can be provided through corporations. Those are private companies that you would actually pay for their Voc Rehab services. And employers have ways of offering vocational rehabilitation to their own current employees. There's also, I'll also be talking about some other resources that help veterans in their job search and their careers. Next slide, please. So you're going to hear a lot of acronyms. Please type into the chat box. Maybe I can catch them as I go. I'll try to avoid using them, but I'm going to talk about some of the basics right now. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the structure overall of the VA, the Atlanta's healthcare system itself, talk a little bit about the difference between the different kinds of Voc rehabs and who's eligible and entitled to which ones, how we interact with the Social Security Administration, the services that the VA provides directly to job-seeking veterans, but we also try not to duplicate anything that's already being done in the community so that there's no duplication or waste of taxpayer funding. And so that's another part of where I come into the equation, is trying to make sure that we are interacting with other agencies and programs to get whatever service any one veteran needs. We also I'll also be talking a little bit about how we share direct hire employment leads and recruitment efforts. And every veteran that comes in, any veteran, you don't even have to have already been into the VA or the hospital, but we are here to help any veteran in North Georgia with their job search, whether you are eligible for health care or not. And when you receive those services, you would be assigned to a VHA Voc Rehab Specialist, and that's another acronym that I may use sometimes, called VRSs. Next slide, please. A Voc Rehab Specialist, or VRS, provides job assistance through all of those different ways listed there. And they're pretty typical for most career coaches. Everything sort of soup to nuts. What do you really need? What are your barriers? Like trying to figure out what the barriers are, what the strengths are, and what the ultimate job goal is. We'll help develop a plan to work toward that goal while we maximize the strengths, and also help overcome barriers. We're going to take into account that there are specific skills that were acquired during the military, and how do they actually translate into civilian life. Typical things for any job seeker, like making sure the resume is in great shape. No one resume is going to get you an interview, but a bad one will keep you from ever getting one. So we want to make sure the resume is in great shape. Test on the ability to job search effectively. And just like Mr. Moseley said, how important communication is with potential employers and folks who are trying to help you get employment, how to ace interviews, how to onboard successfully. I've seen a lot of clients who are very, very good at getting a job, but maybe not keeping it. We want to provide some job matching that really makes sense, that's really suitable for the employment, for the job seeker, and also support them as they onboard and maintain their long-term relationship with the employer. With the disability, when there's a disability involved, where we go out and do work site and job analysis and try to identify the supports that will help the veteran succeed in the job, making sure that they've got whatever technology they may need to survive, to succeed in the job. And that can range, assistive technology is anything from the appropriate eyeglasses, back support, maybe special software, modifications to a desk or an office or anything like that, that helps the veteran overcome a disability and succeed in the job. We make sure that we comply in all ways with the Americans with Disabilities Act and identify other needs for vocational success, just however we can be identified or however the job-seeking veteran expresses. Next slide, please. So with veterans, it's such a pleasure to work, such an honor to work with them, because they do bring such wonderful skills. And I think it's real easy to say, well, how am I ever going to apply any of this in the civilian world? But I think this is a nice example of just how much of military experience, regimental bearing, and just the full experience of having served our country does carry over into civilian world. It's just a matter of learning how to maybe change the words in a way that a civilian hiring official would understand. So for it might be hard to imagine how your combat service might ever translate, but again, that would be, you know, the fact that you can exhibit courage in crises kind of situations, understanding chain of command, being a team worker, being timely, understanding orders and carrying them through. So it's important to display all those skills and knowledge and abilities that were learned through the military to get those onto the resume and not hold back. Next slide, please. So at the Atlanta VA, we have 20 staff that are dedicated to helping job-seeking veterans all around North Georgia. And this is kind of how they're divided. I'm going to talk about the different programs in more detail later. But you can see that we've got 4 each in our transitional work program and a regular general sort of supported employment program, veteran supported employment. And we've got folks who, we've got VRSs who serve veterans based on their housing status or maybe their mental health diagnosis. And all of those, I mean, I've got 20 wonderful partners who are all here ready to help you based on your specific needs and goals. And so I'm hoping that can give some reassurance to please come on board if you need help. You'll keep seeing my phone number and my email throughout this presentation about how to engage with our services. In addition, on that team, we've got 2 community employment coordinators. I have a colleague, Mr. Bart Huff, who also works in the same position that I do. And we are out there. Our primary goal is to, it's really hard to say one over the other, but our primary assignment is to provide customer service to employers and partners. And our strong second, if not, you know, just partner mission is to make sure veterans know about our program. So we're here trying to do outreach and education and marketing whenever we can, trying to get folks in. In addition, and not to be confused, there are probably at least another 40 Voc Rehab counselors in the benefit side of the VA. And those folks are specifically dedicated to service-connected veterans. Our program does not require that service connection. So we're helping any job-seeking veteran in our program. The 40 that are in the benefits administration of the VA are helping service-connected veterans. Next slide, please. So one of our programs that we have through the hospital Voc Rehab is called Transitional Work. And that is, for the most part, it's positions that are carved out in the hospital. And so they're positions that we would never hire someone permanently, but we keep those positions aside for veterans to provide them with a next opportunity, and to do it with the support of a Voc Rehab Specialist as well as a site supervisor. So those jobs do pay minimum wage. They are not taxed or reported. So it is really not a wage or a payroll or a salary. It's a benefits payment. It's paid through the same network. If you're familiar with service-connected disability, they're paid through that same network. So this is a benefit that is available to any veteran. And we have jobs, about 100 jobs, many of them currently open, mostly in housekeeping, but we have jobs in all of those areas that I have listed there. And you'll notice like distribution grounds, maintenance, prosthetics, food service. All of those jobs are the positions in the hospital that do not require access to healthcare information. So we're able to maintain HIPAA compliance because the veteran working in one of these transitional work positions is also a patient. So we're not sharing patient information inappropriately at all. But this gives this opportunity to work in one of these jobs provides a wonderful next opportunity on a resume, a recent item on a resume. It does not need to be listed as a transitional work or a therapy or a medical intervention. It just simply would be, say, a housekeeper or a food processor or whatever. You would list the job position, but you've got a wonderful opportunity to get some experience, maybe get any assistance from the Voc Rehab Specialist that we need to help you succeed. The Voc Rehab Specialist and the site supervisor both work together on behalf of the veteran, and we're trying to create a very successful work-like experience that can help the veteran get that next job. And so the the participant has to be substance-free and actively participating in a program, and we'll help you guide you through that process. And it's not a position that goes on forever per se. It is truly meant to be transitional and to be a next wonderful step for someone and provide a foundation for the rest of their career. We do also have some positions in the community, and those ones are not so time limited. They can really be a very long time. Right now we have a position with National Archives and some other warehousing and clerking type positions. Most of the positions, though, are in the hospital, and whether you're in the community or the hospital, you would still have support from a Voc Rehab Specialist in addition to that site supervisor. And next slide, please. So we also have a transitional residence program. A lot of folks don't know that the VA owns 2 homes on the east side of Atlanta, separated, one for 6 men and one for 5 women. And this program, the participants actually do that same transitional work in the hospital, and that is only in the hospital, not in the community places. And but they also have a living space where we're also helping make sure that all the living and independent living skills are strengthened, maybe for someone who may have had homelessness recently. And the goal there is also competitive employment in the future, as well as regular or transitional housing. So we're helping with another level of support. I didn't mention, you may have noticed on the last slide that the transitional work program is only 4 days a week, 32 hours a week. And so we're leaving that extra day for job search and other appointments and whatnot that need to be done while the veteran is participating. Next slide, please. We also have a program called Supported Employment, or SE, and that is for our patients with serious mental illness, and they get another level of support in addition to their Voc Rehab that is highly trained and skilled in helping with their mental health diagnoses and support while they're transitioning into paid employment. And some of the SE clients may decide perhaps to volunteer for a while or just really hone their job seeking skills, but we're there for, all the way through competitive job offers and helping the veteran maintain them with our support. And that can be extended beyond too as well. Next slide, please. We also have Voc Rehab Specialists who just really do provide more of the sort of traditional job search services, and they are provided to any veteran. You don't need to have homelessness. You don't need to have a diagnosis of any kind. What we're trying to do, though, is make sure we're preventing homelessness. So we're here just to help any job seeker in North Georgia. So our program is just a bottom line. Any job seeking veteran really should think about engaging with our program and seeking our assistance. And they're going to go through all that same assessment of needs, barriers, and goals, and help build a plan and move the veteran into competitive employment. Next slide, please. We also have a Voc Rehab Specialist who is dedicated to veterans who are currently living in shelters. So I'm attached to the homeless program for the Atlanta VA, just in that certainly a big part of my mission is to help veterans with or at risk of or with recent homelessness get back to work and work toward their independence. But while we actually start at ground zero, and we try to do a housing first model. When we identify a veteran who is homeless, we pay for beds in different agencies, and then we get to them with our Voc Rehab services while they're still maybe sheltered. And then as they transition into transitional housing and or permanent housing, we will still work with them vocationally. So there's a lot of things we can try to do just at the very grassroots level. We also work with employers who hire, or staffing agencies who hire currently homeless or sheltered veterans. And so there's a lot of support just from beginning to end of the homeless continuum as well as of the job search continuum. Next slide, please. So the VA has HUD-VASH vouchers, VA supported housing through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And so any veteran who is currently living in one of those HUD-VASH apartments or arrangements would also receive our services. And we have, I believe, again, now 4, possibly 5 Voc Rehab Specialists who are working just with those clients. And again, providing whatever needs that the veteran may have, anywhere just on regular job search skills, to maybe help with a disability or anything else, any other kind of transitional needs that they might need to have. Next slide, please. So we also have dedicated services for veterans with who are participating in substance abuse treatment. We currently have 20 beds at the Atlanta VA, and we also provide outpatient and partial outpatient services. And some of that clinical care is at the main hospital and others at Fort McPherson's campus of the main hospital. And so I believe we have 1 dedicated Voc Rehab Specialist for those folks. But again, we're going to be working while we're working on a recovery model and sobriety. We're going to be working on what jobs are feasible and realistic, and also always keeping in mind that employment is just such a big part of any therapeutic recovery. Substance abuse, disability, recovering from injury, from illness, from surgery. That's what we're here for to help with. Next slide, please. We also have inpatient. The domiciliary program has 40 inpatient beds, and it's for a 90-day inpatient mental health recovery program. The veterans do stay strictly on campus for the first month, but can start working after that first month has passed, and they have 90 days total in the program. But as long as their job can get them in and out beyond within curfew limits, we've got a lot of folks working while they're still in this program and getting support on an inpatient level and just being out in the community working during the day. We have 2 Voc Rehab Specialists currently dedicated to that program. And next slide, please. And so this slide is getting a little bit more into my role as well as my colleague, Mr. Huff's. As I mentioned, that we're here, if you're an employer, we're here to provide direct assistance to you with recruiting veterans. We also provide outreach, trying to make sure veterans know that our services exist within the hospital and that they're eligible for them. We organize employer spotlights and bring, certainly in the before pandemic, we had regular hiring events and employer spotlights on site at the hospital for them. And we try to do everything we can to engage fully with all the wonderful resources that exist here in North Georgia for job seekers and veterans. We share leads, we share information. We just try to, Mr. Huff and I try to make sure this is a very vibrant community and that veterans in North Georgia feel very supported and that the employers in North Georgia know how to recruit them. Next slide, please. So that's kind of finishing up the my presentation on the program that I'm with. And if I could, Mr. Core, I'd love to get a time check. Am I doing okay for you?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Yes, you're
doing all right. Okay, well, I'll go on and I'm going to talk about some other programs. And the reason I'm talking about programs that are not my own is because we partner with them so closely. And our program may be providing those direct services that I just mentioned and described, but it's also our role to facilitate participation in so many other programs and services and benefits and opportunities all around North Georgia. So one of those other programs is also inside the VA. And the VA is broken up into 3 pretty distinct columns. We have Veterans Health Administration, Veterans Benefits Administration, and Cemeteries and Memorials. And each of those administrations has its own undersecretary that reports to the secretary on the cabinet. And so I'm under the Health Administration, as I mentioned earlier, but I have many colleagues in the Veterans Benefits Administration that serves veterans with a service-connected rating. And so you're eligible to apply for that program with a 20% rating or a 10% rating in conjunction with another significant barrier. And so you're eligible to apply, and this wording sounds legalistic, but entitlement still must be determined. So the eligibility to apply doesn't guarantee entitlement. At the very minimum, most applicants can receive employment services, and I say most, but the thing that must be documented is that the service-connected disability is what's making it difficult for the job seeker to obtain and maintain employment. That program has funding possibly to pay for tuition and other fees, and it also is highly based on use of the GI and post 9/11 Montgomery GI bills. So that's another program, and we have veterans who participate in both the VHA and the VBA Voc Rehab programs. Voc Rehab and Employment recently renamed themselves, so you'll see the current proper name at the top of the slide there, Vocational Readiness and Employment. Same acronym though, after the change. Next slide, please.
I'm having a little bit of lag.
No worries. Yeah, no worries. And one other thing I'll reiterate though, that while we're doing an intake on the VHA side, that's some of the questions we're going to ask would let us know maybe you have VBA Voc Rehab available to you too, and we're again going to help facilitate engagement with that program. So we also partner, I believe, very well and very gratefully with the Georgia Department of Labor, who Mr. Moseley represents. We work with the DVOPs and leavers and some hybrid, I believe, positions there. And we recommend that everyone participating in our program also participate in Georgia Department of Labor's programming. And also another agency with the state that some veterans may take advantage of is Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency, GVRA, at the bottom. And we have a veterans outreach person there that we connect with. And that's when the difficulty in obtaining and maintaining work comes from a disability that is not service connected. So we're going to help you help veterans connect with that program as well. So as long as they're a resident of Georgia, they don't have to be a veteran, they don't have to have a service-connected disability. That agency is there for anyone who has a disability that's making it hard to work at all. Next slide, please. So we also work with local governments wherever the veteran may have set up residence. That's how they would plug into workforce development funding opportunities and programs as represented by Mr. Core and hosted today by Mr. Core and Atlanta Regional Commission. And even beyond these, the major ones for Atlanta are listed, the metro Atlanta area are listed on the left, but there are the workforce development is divided and delivered throughout the state as shown on the map on the right. One of the beautiful partnerships that we've had with Mr. Core and ARC is their deployment of their career van to the homeless program at the VA once a month, probably for 5 years, Mr. Core, I think. So we share information, post, co-participate in a lot of different events, and I know that our program at the VA benefits strongly from Workforce Georgia's assistance through Atlanta Regional Commission. So that's another way that the other thing that we would do is if a veteran really wanted to get a short-term certificate that would help them with their career, there may be funding available through these agencies that are listed here on the screen to pay for training and certification in careers that have a bright outlook in that locality. So the funding for paying for those trainings comes from at the national level. It comes into Georgia at the national level, and it's delivered at the local level to make sure that it's invested in careers that are actually highly sought after in the territory or region that the job seeker is living in. Next slide, please. So we've also just got a lot of, I mentioned sort of nonprofits and other organizations that help with employment, and just this is a sample. And no offense if anyone's on here about if your logo's not on here, but these are just some of the wonderful many partners that we work with all around Metro Atlanta and all of North Georgia, and each of them has a different niche that they fill and needs that they provide, and you can see them all there. I've been in touch with most of these probably within the last week or so, and if you're a veteran, there's a special hiring program through the Furniture Bank, and it usually comes with a certificate at the end of your participation. And a lot of these are ways to get training or get employment without, creating any debt, while having a lot of different levels of support from each of these agencies. Next slide, please. So these are some of our, this is again, just a small sampling. I would bet maybe 400 or 500 employers that we work with, but just some employers that we work with quite regularly who reach out to the VA, reach out to me and Mr. Huff seeking veterans, and they want our veterans, they want you. So plug into our program and you're going to have access to these recruiters from these companies and so many more. Next slide, please. So this is kind of an open question to be thinking to yourself, how can a veteran interact with all these different programs, providers, and employers that I just mentioned? So think about the next question on the next slide, please. I mean, the answer. So if you are a veteran who is seeking help with your job search or keeping your job, you can call this number that you might recognize that as the main Atlanta VA hospital number, and then that 6-digit extension, and ask for a Voc Rehab Specialist. That's available to you. If you forget that or lose track of these slides or that number, you can always contact me directly and I'll make sure you get that information again. You can always get that through Mr. Core, but we want to get you into our program. What you can expect is a phone call within 24 hours and the opportunity to get a even more detailed overview of what we do, and then the opportunity to work directly with that Voc Rehab Specialist to develop a return to work plan. And so I've also, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I've helped employers engage with veterans and maintain them. And so many different companies that we work with have veteran affinity groups, kind of almost like clubs within the employment arena. And they might be charged with making observance of special in recognition of veterans' contributions, or maybe calendar days of significance. Many employers provide a program like Battle Buddy, where you'll have a mentor who welcomes you aboard at the company and helps make sure you've got what you need to succeed. Many employers offer classes to their own employees, not just HR, on how to welcome and accommodate veterans on the job. We've also got, we can make referral to external mentors, so these American corporate partners or the Veterans Mentor Network, where you can actually work with somebody who's already succeeding in the field that you want to work in, so that it's not just about the next job, but rather about building a career. I'm here to make sure employers know that when they hire a veteran, they actually get a tax credit. And I'm gonna make a guesstimate. I haven't looked at the recent figures just lately, but I believe that hiring a veteran right now saves a company about maybe $9,000 over a 2-year period through the work opportunity tax credit. So I want to make sure that employers are taking advantage of that. And I'd also like to make sure that veterans are listing their veteran status high up on their, we don't want it buried on the second page or even at the bottom of the first. We want it there front and center. Got a lot of employers wanting to hire veterans, not only for that tax credit, but as a way of saying thanks. Again, I mentioned earlier that there's about 150 of me around the country who are trying to educate employers and smooth the path for the veterans that they hire. Next slide, please. So another question just to think about if you're an employer who's listening in today is, how can you or your company or agency employ and support a veteran? And next slide, it's going to be by reaching out to me. I've got the highlight in a different place this time. But I am your go-to person, really, for either one, as a job-seeking veteran or as an employer. Please make note of my phone number and reach out to me, Tracy Roberts at the Atlanta VA, and that's 404-713-2915, 713-2915. Thank you, and next slide. So I've got kind of a quick reference, some easy to access, hopefully, numbers here that can be part of this production. I understand that it will be saved, and so hopefully you can screenshot or do whatever you'd like to capture these, but this way they'll be part of the record. Next slide, please. And I've got everything there on how to volunteer with the VA if you want to help veterans, whether you are a veteran or not, how to access information about how to get your appointments or get help with housing, anything. Next slide, please. A redundant, again, how to hire a veteran or how to get help with your job search and employment. And next slide. And I'd really like to thank everyone here who sat in and listened in. I'd like to thank the folks who do it later as a recording. Please know that I'm here to support veteran employment in North Georgia, and really to connect anyone with other coordinators around the country, help other veterans around the country find employment coordinators like myself. I'm here and look forward to hearing any questions that Richard, Mr. Core may have taken down, and again to thank him for the invitation and the opportunity to present to you today. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Tracy and James, for a very informative presentation. We really appreciate you taking the time, and I hope and I know that the audience listening in found it very useful. As a matter of fact, someone from the audience sent a message, very informative. Panelists are passionate and go beyond the scope of their jobs. So thank you. So I wanted to pass that out first. We do have a few questions as well. And the first one is for Mr. Moseley. It says, if I'm a disabled rep and need some assistance with finding work, what is my first step?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, James.
So the first step, if you're a disabled veteran and need help finding work, the very first step is locate your career center in your area. Over the slides that we went over, I believe it was the one for Find a Career Center. You can go to Google and you can go to, just type in GDOL, that is the Georgia Department of Labor website. And from there, our website will come up and you go to the search bar and just type in Find a Career Center.
Okay.
And it'll give you a list of all the different career centers served in the state of Georgia. And from there, once you locate your career center, you can go to send them an email or get in contact with the vet reps at your local area. For Cobb County, Cherokee County, and Paulding County, that would be myself. And then let's say like Clayton County, Fayetteville, and Henry County, that's all covered from the Clayton County Career Center. So that website is the first place to start. And then you also have the resources that are available that Ms. Tracy spoke about. But you can come into any career center, locate a vet rep, and we can get you started as a disabled veteran. Depending on what's going on with your employment needs, we can get you enrolled in the program and provide you some services.
Perfect. And a question for Tracy. It says, how do I get, the person who seems interested in transitional work and transitional home, how does she get involved in that area?
So for the transitional work program, there's that, you're welcome to call me, but you can save a step by calling 404-321-6111, and that's extension 207-442. And for assistance with housing, you would call the same main number for the hospital, and that's 404-321-6111, and a different 6-digit extension, and that's 207-436. 207-436.
Okay.
And please let me know if I may help in any other way.
Perfect. So the time is creeping up. Do you guys have any closing remark? Is there anything that you want to say before we go?
This has been very informative for me. I really appreciate you inviting me to this event. And I learned a lot from Ms. Tracy also about some of the things that she covers also. And if anybody has any questions, my information, it was on the original slides. Are you going to be passing out the PowerPoints to the participants?
I'll be emailing the PowerPoints to all the participants online.
Okay. If anybody needs to get in contact with me, my email is on there. Also my phone number. You can leave me a voicemail. I'll get back in contact with you and try to help you any way I can.
All right.
And this is Tracy again. I'd just like to reiterate exactly what Mr. Moseley said. This is, I think, even above and beyond just the information during the times of continued precautions. It's just really nice to be able to connect and to have the invitation and the opportunity to share information and receive information from both of you too. And I just am here to serve, and please let me know how. Thank you.
Okay, thanks again, Tracy. Here at WorkSource Atlanta Regional, we provide some additional service. I'm sorry. We provide some additional service, and I think this quick animation does a good job of telling persons what exactly it is that we do, and how we do it, and why it is beneficial for you if you're looking for work, if you're an employer and looking to hire some qualified persons, why it's in your interest to give us a call. So let me play this, and then we will be out of time. So thanks again, Tracy and James, for coming on. You did a terrific job, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Dream job is calling. We're here to help you find it. Finding the right job or career can be difficult and stressful. WorkSource is here to make it easy. Our personalized, step-by-step process provides job seekers like you with the support and resources needed to get a great job. Our career resource centers offer all the equipment you need for things like printing and sharing resumes and cover letters, as well as quiet places to make those important calls. You'll participate in job readiness workshops where you'll learn how to market yourself. An advisor will help guide you to find the right career move, and you'll have support from the entire WorkSource team throughout the whole process. Let's say you're looking for a career as a medical technician. You may need money for training, supplies, and assistance for childcare and transportation. WorkSource is here to help. Or you may want to become a driver. You'll need to learn to drive a big rig and get your commercial driver's license. Georgia has many occupations that need great workers, and WorkSource's dedicated career counselors can help you find the one that's right for you. The bottom line is that our first priority is your success. WorkSource was designed to assess your skills, help with training, and find a job that fits you. All at no cost to you. WorkSource is a federally funded program. WorkSource, the help you need to get the job you want.
All right. Thanks again, everybody, and hope you all have a good, productive day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.